Welcome to Homespun. This is a created weekly video produced by Mark Delap for the Bladen Journal. We bring to you guests from Bladen County for the incredible people of Bladen County. There may be information, entertainment, songs, and so much more. Be sure to tune in each week as we find the best of the best that our community has to offer. And now, your host, Mark Delap.
We are here today on Homespun with Adrian. Adrian, how do you spell your last name?
Howell.
Okay, Adrian Howell. And let's take you back. Oh, but I guess I should introduce Rosie.
Yeah.
And Rosie is a sweet girl, and she's used for training a lot of children and things like that.
Yeah.
So Adrian, let's bring us back to where were you born?
I was originally born in Wayne County, North Carolina, so right around Goldsboro, and that's where I grew up until I was about the age of, I think I was 12, and we moved to Bladen County.
Okay.
Yep.
And why did you move to Bladen County?
My dad had taken a job offer down here, a job opportunity. He was doing government contracting, and just so that way he was traveling a lot, so that way we could be together more as a family.
Sure.
Went ahead.
And what high school did you go to here?
East Bladen High School, and graduated.
Okay, so you're all excited now because of the girls going to the state championship now?
Yes, I've shared posts. I've even texted one or two. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So when you were growing up here in Bladen County, what are some of the things you remember?
Growing up in Bladen County, the lake was one of the most popular things. Horses were not super prominent when I was growing up around here. We were always on the boat out in the summertime. And during the school year, I was like full-fledged with the horses. Always at the barn throughout the school year, and in the summertime, we were always on the lake.
Okay, and you're talking about White Lake out there.
Yes.
And so the water festival is the big thing then.
Water festival was huge, and the Christmas parade they have in Elizabethtown every year. And I remember throughout growing up in high school, everybody in the community was really tight-knit. Everybody in Bladen County has always been really tight-knit.
And did you have any sports or hobbies in high school?
Yes, so I played volleyball and softball.
Okay.
And then throughout the off-season, I would barrel race. I took a couple of breaks throughout the school, throughout growing up. But that was typically my hobbies. And
Sure. Well, coming from Wyoming, we see a lot of that.
Yeah.
I had done a story on the national champion for barrel race and bending, and
Wow.
she was incredible.
Oh, that's
and now
awesome.
she's in college now, but she was Rain Grant was her name, and
Yep.
she was incredible.
That's awesome.
So yeah, filming some of that stuff was really fun. We don't get a lot of that down here, but so to come out here to this beautiful equine place. And it was magical when I saw it on Facebook, and I thought, I've got to go out and check this out.
Yeah.
Simply because I want to get a story on you, but second of all, I want to come out and be with the horses.
Yeah.
You miss that
100%.
when you're away from it for a while.
Oh, if you're away from them, it's miserable almost.
Yeah, and Rosie came up right away and gave me a big kiss, and Leroy, who's here, and Red, who's here. Some wonderful horses here. So after high school, where did you go?
So after high school, I did 2 years at Cape Fear Community College. When I started at Cape Fear Community College, I was originally going to school for early elementary education and debated between vet med and physical therapy all at the same time. So I just started with general ed courses, and that was how I kind of got on the path of therapeutic equine eventually.
Okay. What year did you graduate from high school?
Graduated from high school in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, right in the middle of COVID.
So you were one of those COVID graduates.
I was a COVID graduate.
Did they allow you guys to have graduation here?
We did. Yes, we did. It was outside on a stage. We had to do it throughout our cars, so we had a line of cars rather than having a line of students.
Sure.
And you'd get up towards the front of the line, and it was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they did it in alphabetical order, I think by our last names, if I'm not mistaken. So they would do it, one student would get out of their car and walk up and shake the principal's hand.
Oh, how cool.
Yep.
We went through that up in Wyoming too. I was in Wyoming for COVID, and our basketball team had just qualified for the first time ever for the state tournament.
Yep.
And they were boarding the bus, and they came and said it's been canceled.
Yeah.
And the rest of the year was canceled for them, and that's how their year ended.
Yep, that's how our year ended.
So
too,
you're a part of a great society, I guess you'd call it, the COVID Society, the graduates, that you guys learned some important lessons that year about continuing to stick together and continuing to fight.
Yes, there was a lot of lessons learned throughout that year because it kind of seemed like the whole world shut down at once,
Right.
and very out of the blue. We thought we were going to have a week off of school. It went from a week being to a month, and then from a month being to another month, and so, but we did. We learned a lot, and there was a lot of friends that we made throughout that time because you
Sure.
were kind of shut in, so there was
Sure.
only so much you could do.
Right.
And I think I grew a little bit closer to the horses and the community throughout that time.
Now here you're going to college at Cape Fear, and you're in elementary education. So obviously you're going to be a teacher.
Yes, I wanted to be a teacher. If you can't tell by how much I talk.
But the idea is so cool that lends perfectly to what you're doing now
Yes.
as a therapist in equine.
Yes.
And so when did you make that step?
It was actually kind of crazy. The summer of 2021, it was right around the time that the Grand Regal kind of got big at White Lake. And I was speaking to one of their owners, Dean Hilton, and I was talking to him, and he was like, "You should look into therapeutic equine." And he got me in touch with the lady who, was doing therapeutic equine. I reached out to a couple of other barns and kind of did a little bit of research. I shadowed under 2 or 3 barns, and I fell in love with it immediately, like right off the bat.
Did you ever go back to school to do anything like that?
Yes. So I'm currently not in school right now, not this semester. I took a break off from this semester. I had a couple of exams that I had to take through Path Intel.
Sure.
So I had to get a couple of requirements for that. I wanted to do a little bit some clinical work, and then I also wanted to. My hopes are to go to Texas within sometime between May and June to shadow under a few professional trainers and a few bigger therapeutic equine facilities. So I decided I would take this semester off, and hopefully I'll have 1 semester left after.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's through Cape Fear also?
No, that is not through Cape Fear. That is through St. Andrews University. So that is where...
St. Andrews, you going all the way to Scotland, or?
No, that is in Laurinburg.
Laurinburg, okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And what is your major there?
Therapeutic equine. So it would be business administration and management within therapeutic equine.
Okay. And when you talk about therapeutic equine, tell me, what does that involve? Now, I've seen... I've seen equine dentists, and that's interesting. It's always a hoot to see them all doped up and put in the into the collar, and then I've seen horse chiropractors, and that they redid their muscles and their joints and their bones and things like that.
Yeah.
So how much of that have you delved into?
So I have not delved too much into any of that. So therapeutic equine is actually, you are using horses as a way of therapy and to improve someone's mental or cognitive function, mental, cognitive, physical function, anything of that nature. So anybody with mental or physical disabilities, you can use horses as a way of therapy for them. So my goal is to focus on epileptic people with epilepsy, things of that nature. I'd like to focus on kids with Down syndrome and autism, or adults as well. And then I would like to put a special focus on veterans with PTSD as well.
Sure.
And so you can actually go, there's a lot of different routes that you can take, but that's the easiest way to kind of explain it.
Right. And, the idea that, especially with the Down syndrome kids and the autistic kids, they just gravitate to the animals, and the animals seem to sense that those children are special.
Yes, so 100%. I think that I want to provide a safe place that allows them to feel, they're just like us, and I want them to have an area where they can come and they get to do similar things that we get to do every day,
Sure.
But while also helping them and improving, their cognitive function and their physical function.
Now, this used to be an Arabian farm. Tell me a little bit about the history of the place we're at.
So I don't know too much about the history of it, but it was Butler Farms, and it was started here. And actually, one of the lesson students that I have, she's not taking lessons at the moment, but she has taken lessons for the last 2.5 years. It's really cool, but her granddaddy actually helped put these fences up himself. So they were related to the owners of Butler Farms. And so anyway, so Butler Farms, it was started by a lady who now lives in White Oak, and she may be moved from White Oak now. But it was started, and the lady, I have spoken to her a little bit about the history. I did give her a call, and we kind of discussed it. Her and her husband started it out as they had horses, and they used them for fun, and it kind of turned into a professional thing. And Butler Farms turned out to be a very pristine Arabian farm by the time they got done with it.
Wow.
The farm that they have now in White Oak is absolutely pristine. We have another barn in the back on the back side of the property. Well, Dr. Gensel on the back side of his property has another barn, and in that barn they have breeding stalls, and it is really neat to hear about the horses that they had on this property. And they would take these horses to big sales, and they would sell these horses to trainers and investors. And I mean, it was really neat to hear about and kind of learn a little bit about. But I wish I could tell more about it, but I don't know too much about it.
We used to call. I had a friend of mine that was training Mustangs for the BLM up in Bureau of Land Management up in Wyoming.
Yep.
And we used to call him a flipper because he would take broken down horses and turn them into absolute show horses.
Yep.
And of course, with Mustangs, it's a breed that you don't find in most horses, and they're a hardy breed. They're used for many things up there.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting to find out. How important is it for you, and you're here with the equine therapy animals? Obviously, a lot of people talk about vetting people, but you've got to vet your animals pretty carefully, don't you?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So it's huge. So my personal horse is vetted very routinely. He actually has an navicular. So he is injected every 6 months. He's on a daily medication for his injections, and with that daily medication he also has blood work. Just about any time my vet is out there giving vaccines, or if she's doing a routine check on anything, or if I have a new horse around, I'll have her do blood work just to check and make sure everything's good.
Sure.
Which he is a little bit older as well, so that plays a role. Horses out here, Dr. Gensel is the same way over top of his horses. And we work together a lot of times to make sure that we stay up to date with deworming, vaccines, any kind of blood work that they may need done. And anytime I've ever, went to Dr. Gensel and said, hey, one of the horses seems a little bit off, like Brad not too long ago, seemed like something was going on with him. We had blood work ran, Dr. Gensel checked him out. And Dr. Gensel has brought in horses from other vets, or brought in other vets to vet the horses as well when we need it.
Sure. One of the big problems we had out west was horses that would get bit by snakes, rattlesnakes out there, and their faces would swell up, and that would be terrible. But sometimes you can give them shots before, as pre.
A rattlesnake vaccination.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have anything like that out here?
They do have some of those. I'm not sure that these horses get them, but we don't have a huge issue here with rattlesnakes.
Right.
I know
you do get the water moccasins here and the copperheads here, though.
Yes, we do, but we don't see them on the property very often. Armando has seen one or two, and he's probably seen more than that. He's been here at the vet hospital for a while, but to my knowledge, we have not seen one, and I've never seen one. The only thing I've ever seen on the property is a green snake, and Red kind of stepped on it. So I was like, all right, let's keep walking.
Plus, you've got a couple of very friendly barn cats who probably keep the rodent population down and the snake population down.
Yep.
And you got a beautiful black cat here with a white patch.
Yeah.
What's that cat's name?
That I call Armando's cat.
Armando's
that cat came
cat.
from an employee that I believe she had some health issues. And so after some health issues, Dr. Gensel and them offered to bring the cat in.
Sure.
And so they brought her in. And when they let her out to be an outside cat, she immediately took to Armando. She actually does not socialize with me whatsoever. If she sees Armando, she kind of follows him around, and she'll sit. He's got a door where he kind of he opens it up and goes in and eats lunch, and they've got some tools in there. And she will sit at that door, and you'll see her just sitting outside the door, just waiting on Armando. So I have always joked and said that's Armando's cat.
Sure.
And then we had one named Inky, and he has been adopted out, but that was previously my favorite one in the whole wide world.
Okay.
And we have an orange cat, and they call him Cheerio. My lesson students call him Goose. Don't ask me where Cheerio and Goose come from. I have no idea. But anyway, so we call him Goose, or one student has also called him Moose because she said that fits better. He is our rodent killer. During lessons, we have to do a check to make sure there's no mice laying around, because he will get them and drag them up and show them off.
Brings his trophies.
Oh, he brings his trophies. He'll put them. I've been at the picnic table before, and there's been one on the picnic table bench.
Sure.
So.
Just left you a present.
Oh yeah.
Now, you talk about and tell me a little bit about your relationship with him and his wife, and how you interact with them. I mean, they own this whole complex, correct?
Yes, yes.
And this is just an incredible veterinary hospital,
Yes.
unlike probably any I've ever seen. And so tell me a little bit about the hospital and how, you got with the doctor and his wife and your working relationship with them.
So I started actually working inside of the vet hospital as a kennel assistant. I was doing an internship. It was right after high school, and it's a program you can go into just to kind of see, and you shadow and you learn if you enjoy it, because vet med was something that I was interested in. And so I came in and I started. And I was working under them, and I had a horse boarding here. And so the horse boarding here, I started using her for lessons, and Dr. Genzel and Valerie, his wife, both have been very, very supportive throughout this whole journey. And so it started as me working as a vet, then a kennel assistant, and then, I eventually moved up to a vet tech assistant. And I would work as a vet tech assistant and a kennel assistant. And throughout that time, I was also working with my parents at White Lake Marina, because they are the owners of White Lake Marina. And I would work back and forth, and I was doing lessons here and there. And lessons kind of started getting bigger and bigger. And I spoke with Dr. Genzel about possibly using his horses and us working on a deal with commission. And I said, I think it would be great for both parties. And I had already previously worked with his horses a few times and, kind of tuned them up. So I spent a few months tuning them up and working with them. And really just putting a focus on, how they could be used for lessons. And I slowly started bringing them more and more into lessons and incorporating them.
What year was this, Adrian?
This was in the year of 2020 to 2021 was when all of this was going on.
Okay, so you started getting in some valuable on-the-job training, but you're bringing in a component to this hospital here that really caters to people.
Yes.
And,
so it was bringing
which
in
is
a new
a
crowd.
great twist.
Yes, it was very surprising. It was a surprising twist. I had some plans, and God had bigger plans.
Yeah.
And so with
Doesn't he always?
Yeah, always. You make your plans, and he has a bigger plan in the hiding.
Or tell him an idea, and he kind of laughs a little bit,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I say. I told me and my lesson student were talking the other day, and I told her, I said, well, I had a plan, and God laughed at my plan and gave me a better plan. But yes, and so Dr. Genzel and Valerie, I started using their horses for lessons and incorporating them more. And it slowly turned into a really good working relationship. They, if I need anything for the lesson program, I can let them know when it comes to their horses. They've provided me with multiple different saddles, different types of tack. They've also, reached out to me. Valerie has given me a couple of different articles on therapeutic equine, and any idea that I bring to them when it comes to, making the program better or making it a little bit bigger or focusing more on therapeutic equine or whatever it may be, they are all for it. They are over the moon and so excited to start. And a couple months ago, I've been really busy these last couple months working full time and putting an extra focus on the therapeutic equine. And Dr. Genzel and me were talking about it, and he was like, well, let us know what you need, kiddo. Like, we're here, we're ready. And they're always like that. And the hospital administrator, Mallory, she has also been a big part in it. She, with everything she has going on Monday through Friday with the vet hospital, she still reaches out to me. We coordinate a lot with making sure the farrier's out on time. If she has any questions, she calls me. If I have any questions, I call her. And it's awesome, the working relationship we have with them. It
Sure.
is.
Now, one of the horses here, Red, is for sale.
Yes.
And the price that they can negotiate is starting at $8,000.
$8,000, yes.
Okay. Beautiful 16-year-old gelding.
Yes, gorgeous.
And as gentle as anything I've ever seen. He's left horse kiss slobber all over my coat. And so just love him. And Leroy is another horse. And how old is Leroy?
Leroy is vet age to be between 19 and 21.
Okay.
So typically, it seems like he's right around the age of 20 from what we can tell.
And how old is Rosie?
Rosie is between the ages of 24 and 26.
Okay.
I'm going to assume right about, 24. She's an older mare.
Sure.
And she's kind of in retirement. She's eased into retirement, but she comes out of it here and there.
And you've got a fourth horse coming in this afternoon?
Yes, and that is not a horse for us. It is
Okay.
a boarding horse that'll be arriving to the facility. His name is Clark.
Okay.
He's going to be doing some training with me, but he'll be arriving this afternoon.
So you are not only dealing with the mental health issues of people, but you're also dealing with training horses specifically.
Yes, so I do not focus on breaking horses, but any kind of tuning up and focusing on problem horses. That is typically what I'm best at and focus at for the most part.
Do you consider yourself a horse whisperer? I look at you and I see how they respond to you, and it's almost and being in that same boat, there's almost times where you can hear what they're thinking.
Yes.
And it's exactly right on. I mean, it's kind of a special bond that you have with these horses.
Yeah.
Rosie wants to get
Rosie
in
wants
here,
to be in the field.
and she says, "What do you have to say about this? Do you have anything to say about Adrian?"
She said she's going to need to throw me some more hay soon. Wouldn't consider myself a horse whisperer, but I do think that once you can learn to read the animal's body language, that's a huge part of the job. And that's a huge part of, especially with a lot of the problem horses, not a lot, but a few of the problem horses that I've had come through have been horses that possibly have come from rescues or maybe, a home that wasn't so great to them.
Sure.
And I've really had to put in a huge focus on reading a horse's body language, because that's when you can tell when they feel like they're in danger or when they may be putting you in danger. And when you can learn to read a horse's body language, it opens up a whole new door of opportunity for you with that animal.
Or when the horse is sick. The horse
Yes.
won't walk up to you and say, "Hey, I'm not going to work today because
Yes.
I don't feel good."
Yep.
So you have to kind of read that.
Yes, you have to
And-
be able to read that and be able to know when to look for the signs.
Sure.
And when it's a sign of, let's keep an eye on them for the next couple of hours, or when it's a sign of, we need to call a vet right now.
Right. I think that when you get new people in and new students, especially children, around horses, we always used to say that you have to introduce yourself slowly, but they can sense whether you just feel comfortable with them or not. So
Yep.
don't be afraid, and just realize that is going to be your newest, bestest friend.
Yeah.
And so that usually works with kids.
Yep.
Do you have any tips on that?
So the biggest thing is, and me and my lesson students say it all the time, if you meet any of my lesson students, they will tell you, fake it until you make it. And we talk a lot about how your emotions play a role into the horse's emotions. And if you don't know what to do in a situation, the best thing to do is to step away from that situation quietly. The more excited you are with the horse, and the more, if you're having an outburst, the horse is going to feed off of that. So with all of my lesson students, we put a huge emphasis on, no screaming. And we can, and when we ride, they may look like they're a big animal and like you may have to manhandle them, but they can feel a fly land on them. So we put a huge emphasis on soft hands, light touch, and also being very respectful of the horse's space.
Slow movements.
Yep, slow movements, subtle movements. We're not jumping at the horse. We're not, and we put a huge emphasis on that. Another big tip that I would recommend is always with horses, if you don't know the horse, don't treat it like you know it. You don't want to lean all over top of an animal that you don't know. So we teach all of our lesson students here to treat these horses just like they would if it were a horse in anybody else's pasture.
Right.
No matter, they may know the horse for years and years and years, they're still an animal with a mind of their own, and they still have their own emotions and their own boundaries.
Yeah, it's kind of got to be a first date scenario.
Yes,
that you have to take with the horses and let them get to know you. Let them feel comfortable with you. I think that's it. Now, you've been here over 20 years.
I have been, not over 20 years. I have been in Elizabethtown. I've been on Earth for 22 years. But in Elizabethtown, I've only been here for, I would say, about 12 years, I would believe. Yep.
All right. So you've been here with Dr. Ginsel for how long?
I would say the last 5 years, and the last 4 years working with the horses.
All right. And are you going to take this and maybe move this into to become an actual vet?
So this office behind us is already a vet hospital, but our goal eventually would be to use this facility as our therapeutic equine facility.
Oh, that's great. Well, you're under one of the best doctors and one of the best veterinarians in southern North Carolina. And so your on-the-job training has got to be absolutely incredible here.
Yes. So I don't actually work inside of the vet hospital
Right.
any. But yes, it is really awesome. And I go in, I'm running throughout the door all the time. Talk to Dr. Gensel. I always talk to, Mallory or any of the other vet techs that are in there. And you get to learn a lot even if you're not directly inside. But even just being out here, you learn a lot. And you hear a lot and you see a lot. And it is really neat, the experience that I've gained in the last 4 years just being here.
Now, you've got a barrel horse.
Yes.
Okay. I talked to you about Rain Grant, who was the national barrel rider and bender
Yeah.
up in Wyoming. She did something very strange. She used the same horse for both.
Yeah.
And usually you don't do that. You use one horse for barrels and one horse for the poles and things like this.
Yeah.
And so tell me about your horse and your relationship with your horse.
Yes. So Mojo, I've had him for, I believe, about 2.5 years now. And I got him on a really good deal. I got really lucky. And the family that I bought him from was very, very good to me at the time. And we still keep in touch with him here and there. But he was originally a high school rodeo horse out of Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken. And he ended up in Ada, North Carolina, and that was where I bought him. And when I first got him, we did not get along. He was originally coming in as a horse that was going to be sold on consignment. I didn't even have plans to buy him. I ended up working him the night that he came onto the property in Wayne County. He was in Wayne County at a family member's facility. And I worked him, and I decided I liked him. I was like, he's all right. I'm going to kind of check him out. And it went from there. I took him to one barrel race, and I was told, by the family that he has alleyway issues. He may go in, he may not. And I took him to the barrel race, and he did not want to go in. It took us a minute to get up there. And that was the last time I've had some alleyway issues with him. Now if I have any issues with him, it is because he just wants to launch into the alleyway and he wants to go and do his job. Sure. And he is an all-around horse. So just like you were saying, barrels, poles, I do not rope. I'm not a roper. I previously had an instructor here that did some roping, and I have learned a little bit about it. I took 2 different roping lessons. Anyway, so my horse is actually very good at roping. He would be great as a team roping horse or a breakaway horse, but I, on the other hand, do not have that talent. Sure. So, but he's an all-around horse. You can use him for just about anything. I've trail rode him. I have played around on jumps with him. I take him to barrel races, and he goes in, and he is typically, knock on wood, he places in the money. He is a very solid horse. I was very fortunate to get him, and no matter what I do, he always does his job.
Absolutely. Now, how many clients do you have right now?
As of right now, we have about 15 within Bladen County, I would say, and then when it goes to Wayne, well, I'll do a correction, 10 in Wayne County and about 10 sitting in or 10 in Bladen County and about 10 sitting in Wayne County. So 20 altogether. Okay. And then there's a few more here and there, but they're not as consistent. They're still customers, of course, but consistent clients, I would say we range about 20.
And your sessions run how long?
Typically about an hour to an hour and a half. Okay. It kind of ranges. It depends on what we're focusing on that day. Sure. We try not to put too much of a time limit on them. We have before, but what I've learned throughout the years with this job is, of course, you have to look out for yourself and the business, but a big thing with clients is you have to make sure that they're getting in the knowledge that they need during that time. Yeah. And so we try not to put too much of a time frame on them. Okay.
And, you working around these horses, they sometimes they just make you laugh for no reason at all.
All the time.
What's the funniest thing you've ever seen out here?
The funniest thing I've ever seen is Leroy. We had a birthday party out here. We put a birthday hat on Leroy, and Leroy ate a cupcake just like he was a little kid, and one of the girls wanted him to blow out the candle. And of course Leroy is a horse, so he does not understand blowing out candles. But we got lucky, and we sat there and we sang happy birthday to him and it was not his birthday, but the kids loved it, and so you do what you do for the kids. And Leroy had icing all over his nose. It was just absolutely hilarious. And then they had a dog from the vet hospital that had walked out, and this dog was just boarding here. I don't know whose dog this was. I wish I did. And the dog put his paws up on the fence, and him and Leroy were kind of touching noses, and the dog was licking the icing. And it lasted for about 5 seconds before the dog was like, that's not a dog. That's a really big dog. And so it lasted for a few seconds before the dog kind of realized what Leroy was, and then he kind of backed away. But it was the funniest thing we had ever seen. We were all cracking up. It was the middle of the summer, and I mean, it was so much fun. We had a great day that day.
Now you took me back and showed me some of the graves
Yes.
of horses that are actually buried here. Obviously, that's a sad day
Yes.
when you lose a horse. Take us back to one of your real challenging days concerning that.
So I would say one of the most challenging ones, and I have been very fortunate. I haven't had to see a lot of horse deaths, thank goodness. I would say one of the most challenging ones, Maggie, was the horse here, and that was Dr. Genzel's horse, him and Valerie's horse. And she was born on the property, so she had been within the lesson program for the last 4 years. And about the last year of her life, there was very limited use of her. She did have COPD, which caused her to struggle with her breathing. And it was really hard to watch her go through that horse, and we were happy to see that she wasn't struggling anymore. But she was gentle with the kids. She was wonderful with the kids. She loved to be groomed, and she loved to be bathed. We would get her out and give her baths throughout the summertime just to keep her cool, and just to get her out and love on her some and keep her moving. And the kids absolutely cracked up. You could put the water hose up to her, and she would just drink the water hose like right as the water was coming out of it, and she would play with her nose in the water, but she was wonderful. And so that was a hard one to lose, because we watched Rosie kind of struggle through it, and it was not easy for any of the kids nor I.
Sure. Well, that's always the tough part is they have a limited time.
Yeah.
But at least they live a lot longer than a lot of pets that we have.
Yes, they do. They live very long lives, and if you keep up with them and you maintain them properly, there's been horses that I've heard of living to be like 35, 36, and I've seen one live to be 32, and he ate the last day of his life, and he was happy as could be.
Yeah. Well, Adrian, this has just been delightful to come out here to the farm and to watch some of the interaction you have with the animals. At some point we'll come back and we'll do some filming of your actual training.
Yes,
with the kids.
We would love that.
And
Yeah,
would
we
be
really
nice.
appreciate you coming out too.
So thank you for joining us on Homespun today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I envy you. You're going back to horses. I'm going back to writing stories. So.
Yep. Well, you get to write about the horses. So.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
visiting with us at Homespun. This program is a creation of Bladen Journal editor Mark DeLapp and is copyrighted by the Bladen Journal. If you would like more information, you can contact us at the Bladen Journal. Have a blessed day.